All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today on the show, we have Roxanna Urban. She is the broker manager for South Florida offices with One Sotheby's, Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, and Brickell.
Yep.
So, and by the way, you've just broken into this after being a real estate agent in Virginia for I think it was 15 years, right?
Almost 15. And this is, I've now broken into leadership for the first time.
So this is going to be a fun interview with a lot of perspective. Roxanna, thank
Yes.
you first of all for just coming on and being on and talking to us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
So I don't even know where to start other than fill in the blanks. So you were an agent for 15 years, how you got into real estate and how you are where you're now. Kind of like fill in the blanks in the story. And then I'm going to start asking you questions about your whole life story.
Sure. So I got into real estate back in 1995. I was in college and I needed a job, and my cousin owned a mortgage brokerage business in the real estate company that was downstairs from the condo that we lived in. And so I got a job just answering the phones, and then I moved on to processing pretty quickly. And then before too long, before the end of the year, I think it was, I got my mortgage broker's license. And then I did that for a few years. And I went on to work for big national lenders. And then I took some time off when I got married, had my kids, and then I transferred into sales. Between that time, we had moved up to Northern Virginia. So I got my sales license up in Northern Virginia and was working the DC suburbs. And I built a really thriving business. I worked as a solo agent. I was part of a team. I mean, I did almost every facet of an agent. And it was very, very challenging. I was by myself up there, but it was also very rewarding. I learned a lot.
And now what I love is you went from that to you're in a position of leadership. And we've been talking about this a little on the show lately, but as top agents, sometimes our biggest challenges aren't, we think it's, getting the next client, but it's really current clients and leadership. That's where the power comes to expand, compound, and grow our business.
Right.
So all that being said, learning about you, how and why did you get into real estate in the first place?
Well, it was very much by accident. I just needed a job. And, I come from the mindset of, you need to be a W-2 employee, and you need to have the 401k, and need to have the biweekly paycheck, and the consistency and the stability of a traditional job. So getting into real estate was never on my radar. In fact, I was heading towards education, just like my mom. So I ended up getting a job, and it was just an hourly position. And then that just evolved. So I like to say that life sucked me into real estate, and I've been in it since.
And you were in mortgages, so you learned a lot about it. But then so that was in South Florida. And then you go to Virginia and you have kids. And then why real estate agent? What compelled you to do that?
It was because
it's like jumping off a bridge or something.
Right. No, but it's a very legitimate question, because that was really all I knew. That was really all I knew how to do. And there's a lot of facets to real estate. And so I think that when you find what your strengths are, you can always find some little corner of real estate that your strengths would really evolve in. And for me, that turned out to be sales. And it's funny because sales to me has always been, I've never been a transactional agent. Although at the time I had no idea what that was. I'm just not a transactional person. I can't meet somebody, go through this huge process with them, which, it's a very intimate position. So go through this whole process of finding a home for them. You really get involved in their lives. And then after the settlement table, then just move on and forget about them. That is not my nature. So I am very much about building relationships, being authentic, focusing on serving. And that has been really what has led me to succeed, because I have been able to was able to build a referral business.
So did you know that going in?
I did not know that going in. It kind of all happened by accident. And the things that I was always focusing on are the things that are really helping me today in my leadership role. So things that I was always focusing on were things like building structure into your business, building the systems, the processes, those type of things, which are long-term commitments, because that's what helps you build a business that can still be thriving 15 years later. Those are the things that I was always attracted to. Those were the things that I always found exciting. So that's actually helping me a lot now in my leadership role, because I take my agents and I help them. Okay, let's start from number one. Do you have a database? Because that's going to be the backbone of your business. Let's go from there. We're going to start setting up your systems and your structures, and that's been really successful for me. And I hope that my agents find
Yeah.
value in that. Now, towards the end of the year, I'm focusing a lot on business planning and creating our marketing calendar for 2023 and doing all the things that can help the agents set up their systems.
So most agents get into this business because they're good with people and they kind of like, I think like there's a lot of winging it until you
There's a
figure out.
lot of winging it. Yes.
And so you have a database, you know people, you have a great brand, you have a great company, you go see houses and you're going to do pretty well. You probably got drawn into the systems and structures because you were, corporate mindset, you were with a mortgage company, you had that role. When you got into sales, how did you know? Number two questions, how did you know that the systems and structure would actually improve your sales? And what were the systems and structures that really made the biggest impact on your business? Because there's a lot of things we can do, but there's not actually that many things that make the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm. So the systems and structures is actually something that I didn't give much value to until I got into sales. I didn't really even pay attention to them when I was in lending. And maybe it was because of my age. Maybe it was because I was in my 20s. I wasn't really focusing on that. I was just kind of like getting through the transactions. And that worked at the time. And maybe that's what lending. But in sales, and as I've gotten older, I've realized that I need to be able, and maybe it's also, motherhood and all the things that get put on our plate. I need to be able to compartmentalize and to be able to put some structure and to put some organization, because otherwise, how would I ever manage everything, right? So my old team leader used to always say, if I have to do something twice, I'm going to put a system around it. If I have to do it more than twice. And that always stuck with me. And like, she's absolutely right. So, the whole thing is people don't really realize that you have to set up your systems and your structure, because otherwise you're just going to be going crazy all day long.
So when you said, so database is, I think, pretty easy. There's usually a pretty basic formula. It's who do you know, rank them, who are the best, who are the least, and that's pretty natural. But then when you start putting in systems, you can systemize so much. What are the systems, the basic systems that are most important to be a great real estate agent? It's the stuff you do twice, but is it like how you win business, how you follow up, how you do a presentation, how you serve a listing? Like, what are the best systems to impact your business?
I would say that probably the ones that have the most impact is how you prospect. Because getting out there and again, everybody's different because everybody has different strengths, and it's very hard to identify your strengths because they come naturally to you. So if you don't know what your strengths are, I always tell people, ask the people that are closest to you, ask the people that you've worked transactions with, what would you say are my strengths? And then on those strengths, start building. So I found out that my strength was relating to people and being in front of people. So even though I tend to hide behind the computer a lot, because there's always a lot of work to be done on the computer and that never ends. I know that I have to,
yeah.
Right. I know that my strength, I'm not really going to be winning any business here behind a computer, because my strength is in front of people.
Gotcha.
So the systems for that is your prospecting so that you can get in front of people. And those systems need to be consistent.
Interesting. So when you look at like overseeing all of these real estate agents, put in your, get your database, put in your systems and your structure, and then plan. Who are the most successful agents and what do they have in common? What do you find?
Well, it's different because, 230 agents that I'm holding right now, they're all different. and their businesses are all different. And they've created their systems and their processes, the ones that have, are all different because they're individual to them and what resonates with them and what they need help in and what's their strengths and what's their weaknesses and their deficiencies. They have to fill
Yeah,
people in for that. So everyone is so different that it's kind of like a real estate transaction. No two transactions are ever the same.
that's the truth. So when
Yeah.
you get these agents, like, and right, like, I'm like, that agent's gonna make it. That agent's not, or that agent's, like you see the ones that make it, you're like, that's why. And they're all different. Like I know one agent she's a top agent because she knows who she is. She's very spiritual, and that's the relationship she develops with her clients. And by the way, she knows her market. She's organized. She's true to herself. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. And then I know another one that's not anything like her, and but knows the market, is comfortable in their skin, and knows how to relate to people, and that's why he's successful. Do you see
Mm-hmm.
anything? And then it's people who go, "This is what I have to do, and I'm going to do it." And the people that are
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, you think I have to do that, but I don't," and of course they don't make it. But like,
Yeah.
do you have any examples like that in your business? Like, and I know you're just so everybody, you've been doing this for an agent for 15 years, and now you're transferring into leadership. And by the way, probably the most expensive area of all of South Florida.
Yeah, it's a very affluent area. So
Yeah.
the numbers are definitely mind-boggling when I see them. I came from a very high-end market that I thought was very high-end, and this just blew it out of the water.
It's like a
Yeah,
whole new ball game.
yes,
A
it
whole new
really,
ball
really
game.
is. It is. It's beautiful though. I think that a big component to success for any real estate agent, no matter how different you are, would be a lot of self-development. You have to be able to do some self-development in whatever arena that means to you. You can't expect, because this is such a dynamic role and this is such a dynamic job, and you're fulfilling so many different roles, that you really need to be able to look into yourself and draw out what you need. And I always tell people a big component is authenticity. You have to be authentic in this job if you want to make it long term, because it is such a dynamic and what's the word I'm looking for? All encompassing, and it takes all of you. This
Yeah.
job takes all of you to succeed. So you have to just be authentic and work with what you have, but hone in on your strengths and your skills, and try to perfect them and master them.
So it's because you also said, so it's authenticity, and it's also understanding that our job, like being a leader, is serving people. Whether you're a real estate
Yes.
agent, you're a leader as you are now, is it
Mm-hmm.
serving people, being authentic, and being excellent at what you do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about that, there are two directions I'm going in my mind. Is there's one on here's what to value, and here's a great agent, someone who's a servant at heart, someone who is authentic, and someone who is excellent and knows and does what they do well. They know their market, they understand themselves, and they bring it together
That's
to
number
serve
one.
people.
That's
Yeah.
number one, is somebody who's skilled in the industry and knows the craft of the business. Number
Hmm.
two is somebody who is a authentic and is striving to be self-led and motivated, and they're in the office all the time, just going out and getting it. And number three, which I think is super important and often overlooked in both sales and leadership, is compassion. Compassion is something that is very, very powerful. It's never talked about, but you feel it from the moment you speak with somebody. And everybody is going through something. Everybody's going through something, no matter what it is. And when you sit down with the person in a space of authenticity and you reach out your hand to them with compassion and you say, I'm here to help you, whether it's to help you sell your house or to help you find a house or to help you develop your business and go sell houses, I think compassion is probably the number one thing that will keep somebody sitting in front of you.
Wow. Know your craft, be good at it, hustle
Yep,
authentically. And
exactly.
in that overlaps into when people come to you, serving them and having with compassion,
Compassion and humility, yes.
which I'm going to totally make a sideways comment here, but I think it is relevant. You know what Buddhism is?
Yes, of course.
Well, Tibetan Buddhists, the difference, you may know more than I do, is the compassion component. It's being Buddhist with compassion. Same thing for realtors. If you've ever met a Tibetan Buddhist, they're the cutest, happiest, most just like you just want to be around them.
Yes.
Versus anybody else. Like,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Christians, we're supposed to love each other, number one.
Right.
Here we are.
Oh, we're supposed to.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do like a controversial podcast later, because there I go. But in that, but it's all true. Okay,
It
so
is.
so in that, where do you think? Because I think people come to this business maybe on one end of it is being compassionate, but to the point that they're projecting rather than actually empathizing and serving their other people's wants. There becomes this projective, and then there's the other end of it where there's no compassion. It's just a transaction. I think those are the agents that actually like have the trouble, or it's defining the lines between the two. And I know you've talked about, I was a very compassionate agent. Where did you find how to, where did you find how to go, okay, my strength is my weakness is the message here? Where did you, how and where do you balance that out in your career and anything you do?
It's very hard. It's the elusive balance that you're always searching for and you never really find, right? Some days are better than others, but I think that balance doesn't really exist. I think, at least for me, in my career, I was always going really, really hard for some time, and then I'd hit the brick wall, and then I'd take some time to relax, and then I'd jump back in, and then go with everything, and then come back, and that's just the way it worked out for me. So I think that you have to honor yourself. I know that I was listening to my body a lot of the times when I would say I'm burnt out, I'm worn out, I need to take a step back and recover from this, and then I can get back up in a little while. And I think that's fine to do. I think that sometimes you get boo-booed for taking some time out, but if you need to take some time to pull yourself together or to rest so that you can come back stronger, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's how you get fit. You can't get fit by just running all day and never stopping.
Correct.
Getting better is the recovery. Recovery is part of the process.
Yes.
And that's like, what a great reminder is, if you're going to be great, if you're going to be great, whether it's physical, mental, and spiritual, you've got to stretch, and then you've got to take that break, or you will break.
Correct. And I think that that's the closest thing to balance that I got.
I'm kidding. Anyway.
No, but that's
you can take a break or you will break, though. But yeah, go ahead.
It's true. You're absolutely right. Take a break or you will break. That's about as close as I ever got to balance.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, because in our business, the real estate agents who say, I only take calls until 6 p.m. If this message is received after 6 p.m., I'll call you tomorrow, are the ones who don't make it, especially not in luxury.
Right? Well, that phone call is going to go to someone else. I know I will.
Exactly. It doesn't last long. So as a real estate agent, you're not a real estate agent anymore, but you were for 15 years. Okay. So like, I've got to ask you these questions, like, and then I'm going to pivot it back into your leadership role today. But what was your biggest surprise or your biggest aha just about being an agent? And you're someone who had it in the family, but becoming an agent, I think, is always like, it's always like the new lens, the new experience. What was yours? Biggest aha that you had, or biggest surprise?
I had so many. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I think that probably most of and this might sound bad, but a lot of the ahas that I had were about myself. Because a lot of this type of work is, like, I go back to a lot of self-development. So, we never stop growing, or we should never stop growing. And so, and that's always something that's come very, very intuitively to me. I've always liked to do a lot of growth and self-development. And so that's always come naturally to me. And so a lot of the aha moments that I got were about myself, because that's really the only thing you can control.
Mm-hmm. What a great message. You've said that a couple of times, and it's reminding me of the quote Jim Rohn says, if you want more outer success, then just develop personally. It's, who do I need to be? What are results I want? Well, who is the person? Who do I need to be the person to align to those results?
Yeah. And that's a lifelong journey, right?
What would you, now I'm putting you on the spot, or maybe I'm not, but as you personally developed, because I always thought, gosh, if I was a real estate agent, I wouldn't have been faced with these things that made me like look at myself. Like
Right.
you really can't, like when things go wrong, blaming the client's only going to get you so far until you realize there's a common denominator. When they're top agents and they're not, and you want to be a top agent, well, the common denominator is something different in how I'm responding and handling opportunities
Yep.
and situations.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
What was yours? Do you have any moments where you're like, oh, like that was me, and I can't believe I didn't know that before?
Yes. So I would say the first thing that pops to my head right now when you're saying that is speaking up. So
Mm.
I've always been very I don't want to say quiet because I'm not really a quiet person, but always kind of tiptoeing around the topic, not wanting to offend anybody, kind of like nurturing people's emotions, and just because you're carrying them again through one of the most stressful times of their life, right? So I was always carrying my clients here, which is, by the way, exhausting to do. So I had to finesse that, and I had to say, okay, this is you can be a connected to somebody without going past your boundaries, right? Without having to envelop and take on all their problems. You can just be a resource to them, and that's enough. And they're grateful for that. So that was one of my biggest aha moments, was to kind of pull it back a little bit and then just be able to speak up without worrying about offending somebody. Because most of the time, what I'm saying is nothing bad. And it's something that is just usually to help somebody. And a lot of times they might not want to hear it because, if I'm the listing agent and I'm telling them that there's a deficiency that needs to be addressed, a lot of times people don't want to hear that. But it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? So I've learned to speak up and just be mindful of the way you say things. And so again, I think that that's something that has come with age.
That is so important. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think real estate agents are typically people who want to accommodate and help people, especially
Mm-hmm.
women.
Yep.
And I think it's I can remember having clients, and also that fear of losing everything because you made somebody mad or said the wrong thing,
Yes.
realizing that's the disservice. The
Yes.
the service is when you don't step back and go, okay, what's really best for everybody? And I need to put my big girl pants on and learn how to say what I need to say.
That's exactly right. That's
What, do you
exactly
have a
right.
moment that you would share with us, or like and how, because the concept of it is one thing, but the application of it is a whole nother.
Yeah. You know, um, Well, I will say that now that I've stepped into this leadership position, it has served
Oh,
me really well that I've been able to speak up through from day one. I've had no issues. And this is a bigger conversation about how I feel that I was custom made for this role and everything else. But I
yeah.
feel like from day one, I have been able to a very efficiently direct people into what it is that we need to create what we're trying to create. And I haven't had any difficulty with speaking up. I haven't been hesitant at all. Like, are they think I'm being bossy, or do they think that I'm coming in and trying to change everything? None of those thoughts even cross my mind anymore. It doesn't really matter. And I don't want to say that it's because I don't care, but it's kind of like, I don't care what people think about me right now.
The
I'm
bigger
here to
agenda
do
is
a job.
the goal. Yeah. The focus is the
Correct.
goal. What's the goal? The goal isn't what people
Correct.
think of me. The goal is we're on the same page to get to get it done.
Correct. And so, there's ways of doing things, and again, ways of saying things. You don't have to be mean about it, but it's kind of like when you have children and you're parenting your children and you're trying to discipline them to do something or to eat the meal that they don't want to eat. They're not going to be happy about it, but they're going to be grateful at the end because you're helping them, right? So this is kind of like the position that I'm in right now. People sometimes don't want to hear what I have to say, but I'm going to say it to them anyways. And I'm going to say it to them with compassion. And I'm going to say it to them while I'm leaning into them and connecting with them because I want to help them grow. And and I think that that comes across and they get that.
Wow. Do you have any like tactical measures that you take? Like you lean in, you listen first, empathize first, probably.
Well, I can't say it's really that.
If you had to do an instruction manual, what would it look like? But go ahead.
Yeah. So no, I don't have a system for that. I don't have a system for that. That's something that just does come very naturally to me because I was an agent before and because I know what they're going through and how difficult it is, what they're doing and what they're struggling with, because it's not an easy business. We
Mm-mm.
all know that. Even the people that are doing super, super well can tell you it's not an easy business and it's nonstop. So I know what they're coming from and I know where they are because I've been there too. So that's where the compassion component comes in.
It's so true. And I think that's what is as an agent, as a leader, understanding who you lead, because as an agent, you are a leader to your clients. You really, that's what they're
Right.
looking to us as experts. And understanding as an agent, stopping and saying, okay, what is the client experiencing? What does the client want? Because what they say they want and what they really want may not be the same.
Right.
And they may or they may not even be cognizant of it. And
Yeah,
the
they
same
probably
thing
don't
with
even
real
know
estate
it.
agents.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you think is when you look at the real estate industry and you look at real estate agents, why do you think, we've got Zillow, we've got Amazon that turned, retail upside down. We've got malls that are going away. I mean, all of these things. And then real estate agents, the more, especially the higher the price point, the more valuable they just seem to be and
Mm-hmm.
necessary. What is
Mm-hmm.
that about our industry that's different? I think, and what do you think that technology has impacted it in a much different way than would have been anticipated? And what's your take?
I think, since I started in real estate in 1995, I've been hearing about how our industry is getting destroyed, how they're getting rid of us, how we'll be out of a job in 10 years.
Right.
I stopped listening a long time ago because we're still
Yeah.
here and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
People need us. People need us because yeah, you can go online and and see everything about all the data you need, all the pictures you need and everything. But I tell you what, there's that component of feelings again. There's that component of how do you feel when you get to a house? What's the energy of the house? That stuff does not come across on the internet or on the computer. And you need somebody to get to that point.
And to
So
negotiate and understand the rules and to
right.
give context to the deals
I
and
mean, right, that's just one
right?
component.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we are driven by emotion. So, data is great, but you're going to have to get there and you need somebody to get there.
So true. It's so true. Now, real estate agent to leadership. I think a lot of real estate agents, we become really successful, but the leadership skills, and like you said something earlier, you said part of it was just learning communication skills and being able to look at a goal and efficiently communicate to get it done. Real estate agents, we typically have a great way of communicating to win deals, but then we just get the listings and we hustle and it gets done. That as you've been a successful agent and transferred into leadership, what is the thing, what is the advice you would have to us real estate agents, and what are you learning and seeing in leadership versus being an agent that we can all learn more from you?
Well, I think that one of the things that, and it's come up in this conversation a couple of times and I haven't addressed it, but one of the things in this business is that you're running super fast all the time,
Yeah.
especially when the market is like this, the way it is, right? You have to jump on it because the listing will be gone if you sit on it for 30 minutes. So we're constantly hustling, whether it's 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. The market never stops. And so the agents that are working are never stopping either. So I think that one of the important things is to take a step back. Time blocking is imperative, I think,
Yeah.
if you want to get everything done. Otherwise, you finish every day with still a long laundry list of things that you never got to. So I think that putting a time block around this crazy market is always very, very beneficial.
Yeah, identifying the goal so that you can time block for what you want to achieve and make sure that the activities you're doing are actually aligned with the goal. And if they're not, reconsider what you're doing with your time.
Right, because it's very easy to get distracted and get swept away with your day, the shiny object syndrome and everything that we're always chasing 10 million different things. But that's why it's so important to start with your goal setting and your business planning and your marketing calendar so you can at least have a little bit of a backbone of a foundation to be following so you can stay on track. And that's one of the things that I'm very heavy on with the agents is to start putting those things, that foundation into place. And then accountability, of course, is huge. Accountability is what keeps you on track, because you create your own metrics, but then you need to count on your colleagues to hold you accountable, make sure that you stay on that track, because very easy to fall
Accountability
off.
is huge. Yeah. Sometimes people think, oh, I just need to show up every day so I can wait my time out to get lucky.
Yeah, but it's very easy to lie to yourself. That's the problem. We're very, very good at lying to ourselves, and we can always spin a story around anything. So if you have a colleague of yours, or your partner, or anybody who sees you hustle, who sits down with you maybe once a week, or however often it is that you feel you need, and says, all right, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? A lot of times that's all it takes, because that person's going to ask you tomorrow, so you're going to get it done.
Isn't it
So
amazing
accountability is huge.
yeah, it's amazing how like being accountable to someone else is so often
Yeah,
easier, even though we're really doing it for ourselves.
right. But you're more apt to lie to yourself than you are to somebody else. And that's very sad, but that's the reality of being a human being.
Oh, that was a profound quote. You are more apt to lying to yourself than someone else. That is the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But you don't even know you're lying to yourself, because you're spinning stories around it to suit whatever narrative you have going on. And
It's,
that's what we do to survive and make ourselves feel better.
well, and what's interesting is that's what we do. And back to you earlier, what you were saying about having conversations with clients, that's what clients do. And
Yeah.
sometimes we fit into their false narrative so we can stay a part of their story to keep the listing or keep the
Yes.
business and hope it works out.
Yes. Yes.
And it's
Absolutely
a matter of,
right.
right. And some of it is experience and knowing the market so you can speak with confidence and caring. Because it's not
Yeah.
about who's right and who's wrong, because nobody wants to be told they're wrong. It's
Right.
about back to if you're great at what you do, it's a lot easier to communicate the facts and be
Yeah.
confident, because you can't fake confidence anyway.
Right. Right. It definitely comes across.
So for agents looking at breaking in, I mean, you were in a market in Virginia. You were basically Virginia near DC, but what exact market were you in before?
So I was in Northern Virginia
Okay.
so I serviced everything from Ashburn to Sterling to Western Loudoun to basically Loudoun County, Virginia. Um, I'm not from there, but I learned that market.
Yeah.
And it's a very transient area, so it was very easy to break into that market because nobody knows anybody. You know,
Oh,
you've
wow.
got
Yeah.
you've got your handful of locals, but most everybody there is transient. So it was pretty good for me to build a business like that, because people are constantly moving. People don't really know you or your family, but they don't care because they're not from there. So that was
Well,
good.
but what's interesting is in that market, you're always new. In other
Yes,
markets, you're not always new, so it can be easier to build a business. So
that
that
is a great point.
yeah, so that market or Miami, what is the best way to break, especially that market? What is the best way to break into a market and to keep your momentum?
I would say if you're a new agent and you're trying to break into the market, find the experienced agents that have listings and are holding open houses, and ask to host their open houses. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a great way for you to get in there and start speaking the language of real estate, start speaking to potential buyers, speak about the property, get to learn the ins and outs of homes and properties and real estate, and be able to speak intelligently about them. So open houses to me are a great way to get started.
Exactly. And
And I
when you
tell them, look, chances are you're
yeah,
not going to sell that house. And chances are that,
that's
because,
good to know.
yeah, because they all go in thinking, I'm going to sell this house today. I just got my real estate license, but I'm selling a $5 million house
That's
today.
like
That's,
right. Remember the
I hate to
American
be,
Beauty? I'm going to sell this house today. That movie's for so old now. Like 20 years. Did you remember that scene? I'm going to sell this house today. And I'm like,
yes,
can't even. Just
right.
right.
So, I tell people go in there knowing that, but you're going in there to practice. That's really go in there with the expectation that you're not going to sell this house probably, but you're going to get in here and talk about it, and you're going to learn real estate and you're practicing your craft. So that's the biggest thing. Get out in front of people. You're just gonna have to pull off
That's
the
how you build
band-aid
your
and jump
knowledge.
in.
That's how you build your knowledge so that you can, when you're positioning your business and you're prospecting in a way that aligns to who you are and what your goal is, you're prepared for those opportunities when they come. And it might be the open house or it might be someplace else. But everything you do is building on your career and that goal that you set in the first place.
And I like what you said about what aligns with you, because when I'm doing the business planning right now with the agents, because we're doing that towards since it's the end of the year, getting ready for next year. The last page of the business planning booklet is about writing down the prospecting activities that you intend to do next year, right? And that's before we move on to the marketing calendar. But I always tell the agents, put stuff on there that you like to do, because that's the stuff that you're going to get around to doing. If you put stuff on there that you don't like doing, you're going to find every excuse to do something before you get around to doing it. And then you're never going to prospect. So do the things that are authentic to you, that you resonate with you, that you have fun doing, that after you've done it, you feel energized and invigorated, and that you look forward to doing, because that's the stuff that you're actually going to do, not the stuff that drains you.
Find what you're pulled to do, not what you have to be pushed to do, because
yes,
in yourself.
I love that. Yes. Yeah.
Now, got the final three, and they're not scary, don't worry. But the first question, we ask this on every episode. The first question I want to ask you in our final three is, as you look at your career, what do you think has been most resourceful in your success? And it could be a tool, something you did, a quote, anything.
I'm going to go ahead and say my life. My life on social media was probably, if I had to pinpoint one thing, putting my life on social media was actually pretty successful for me. And I wasn't everything on social media, don't get me wrong, but putting just enough that people could actually connect with and say, oh, I share that too, or oh, my kids play soccer too, or oh, we went to this aquarium too, or oh, I'm dying to see that movie. How was it? Just little things on social media for people to connect with you. And that's how you start connecting with people. And then once you connect with them, you start nurturing that relationship. So again, going back to your systems and your database, once you connect with somebody on social media, you're putting them into your database. You're actually now putting them into your consistent tagging, so that you're building and nurturing that relationship. And again, that's where your systems come into place. You have to get in front of people.
Right. But that all comes back to connecting. And when you connect, to maintain that connection, never losing your compassion as you serve them.
Right.
If there's a book that we just have to read, or that has changed your life and or your career, what would you say it is that we've got to read?
Okay, so I do love mindset. And let me see. Right now, I have Atomic Habits, obviously, on my nightstand.
Yeah.
I have not started reading it yet, though, but I really want to. But I think mindset is a great one. I think the old classic 4 Agreements is just for life, not just business, but for everything. That book to me was I read that at a very young age. And that book for me was probably one of the first things that kind of said, hey, snap out of it. Because one of the agreements is don't take anything personally. It has nothing to do with you. Everybody's thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. So, that book to me was very good. And it's a short read, very easy to do. It's called The 4 Agreements.
Oh, I've read that. Yeah, if you did, that's a great one. So mindset, Atomic Habits. I know the concepts in it, but I've actually never read the book. But I
haven't read it either.
But so again, 4 Agreements, Atomic Habits. I love it, because real estate agents always, when I ask them for one, it's always more. But I love to see if they can come up with one. But the first one that you said was mindset. So I just Googled it. Is it? It says mindset, how you can fulfill your potential, or mindset, the new psychology of success. Which one is it?
I think it's the new psychology of success. Let me see.
That's the first one that comes up. But it's got
the cover.
Who's the author? Mindset, the new psychology of success, by Carol S. Dweck.
No, that's not it.
Oh, well, there's a book that we could check out. Then it's how you can fulfill your potential. That's the other one that comes up.
It's the Carl S. Dweck book.
Oh, it is that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, well, they're both Carl S. Dweck. They just look different when I Google them. But anyway, it's Mindset by Carl S. Dweck. I have not heard of that one. What was your biggest takeaway from that?
Well, I actually started reading that because I felt like I needed to change my mindset. I was in a place where I had been just like a very difficult time in my life. I think that everybody goes through it. Nobody wants to talk about it because there always seems to be shame around having a difficult time, which I don't know why. It's not like we brought it upon ourselves. I didn't choose to,
Right.
I didn't choose to go through difficult times, but I did. And I'm actually very proud of the way I came out of that. So while I was in that difficult time, I was just hating everything. I was hating life. I was hating myself. I was hating my business. I was hating my clients. I was hating everything because I was so just down and out and beat up and just worn out, just like I had hit the brick wall.
Yeah.
And so I read that book to kind of help me change my mindset. And one of the things that helped me the most was because it all starts with your mindset, right? It's all about how you wake up in the morning.
Everything
That
out
sets
here.
the tone for the entire day. So one of the biggest things was to start, when you're in a dark place, start listing out your gratitude, things that you're grateful for. And it's all about changing your mindset, pulling it out from here and putting it here, taking it out of the half empty glass and putting it into the half full glass. And so, it all just kind of takes a kind of a redirecting of your vision. And that's all it is. But yet it's so hard to pull ourselves out of that.
And a lot of it, you said earlier, we're so good. We're more honest with other people than we are ourselves. And what I'm just taking from what you said, even though you didn't say it, but you probably meant it too, is that your mind is being even aware of your mindset, like being honest with yourself about your mindset, because it's real easy to slip into a victim mindset and not identify it,
Correct.
which reinforces all the bad stuff coming your
Correct.
way.
Correct. And so many people are stuck in that, right?
Yeah, and which keeps the good stuff, like the go-giver comes on a lot. And I just have to say this because it's kind of the point. A lot of people talk about the giving of it, but my takeaway in that book, and I say this all the time, I've got to reread it because I was like, I don't know, 30 or in my 20s when I read it. But there was a part of it that was like, it said, you can't give if you can't receive.
That's so true.
And mindset has a lot to do with receiving. It's not just, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll take stuff when people give it to me, but it's when stuff comes your way that looks like a problem, it's an opportunity if you'll receive it. If you'll look
Mm-hmm.
at it and be aware of your mindset, and your mindset's keeping you from receiving gifts that are like all packaged up by God or whoever you want to call it, like
Yep.
here, and you're like, nah,
Yep.
that's mindset.
That is so right. Yep.
So thank you for that.
Totally. No, thank you. That's perfect.
Last question. Actually, no. We have to ask two more. So you talked
Okay.
about challenges. When you look at your career, I didn't ask you this, and I think it's really relevant right now, is there a story or a challenge that you would share with us that you were like, this was a challenge and here's what I did to overcome it and what I learned? Like, here's the message I got. Here's how I got to the other side of it.
Well, probably the biggest story, going back to that dark time in my life, and anybody who knows me knows this story because I'm very open with it. But probably from 2012, maybe, or yeah, from 2012 to 2017, my mom was actually battling cancer, and she lives here in Miami, but her cancer was so rare, she was at a study up in NIH, which is 45 minutes from where I used to live up in Northern Virginia. So looking back at it, that was a huge blessing that I lived up there because I was able to be my mother's caregiver while she was doing her treatments for 5 years. Um, Huge blessing, but the most difficult, challenging thing I've ever done in my life, right? Because my husband traveling all the time. I've got two girls that at this point are going through middle school and into high school. I'm running a business. I'm, managing everything by myself. And then on top of everything, I'm taking care of my mom who's 45 minutes away in the hospital. So, and then after she passed away, a week after we buried her, my husband gets laid off. And I had been taking care of my mother in hospice, so my pipeline was not anywhere where it should have been. So it was
Yeah.
just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. And how did I overcome that? My faith plays a huge role. I been labeled a little bit of a religious fanatic because of that, but that was just what I hung on to. That was how I've been
Yeah.
raised. And I thank God that I have my faith, because I don't know how I would get through without it. But it was a lot of just kind of pruning the things in my life that did not serve me anything positive and were really just taking up space and energy. And sometimes that was people. And unfortunately, I had to just kind of prune some relationships out of my life that were not serving me anything good. Um, a lot of self, a lot of work within myself, a lot of self development, a lot of pulling myself out of that rut. But I did it. I did it. And what was on the other side was a more developed me, somebody who was a lot more compassionate, somebody who, that served me to sit down with my agents now who are going through tough times and say, I know exactly what you're going through and you're going to get through this. And, because I've been through it and I got through it and it was really hard and it lasted a lot longer than it should have, but I got through it. And look, I'm much stronger now. And sometimes that's all people need to hear. Sometimes that's what people need to hear. You see them sit up a little bit straight, they kind of straighten out a little bit and, they pick their head up and they say, okay, I can go on another day. So I share my story with people. And is there shame around that? Yeah, there's shame around the fact that I couldn't balance everything, that I couldn't manage everything, that I couldn't be at 100%. But you know what? I'm a human being and I don't think anybody could have. So I learned a lot from that. And it's made me who I am today. And it's kind of brought the clients that were working with me at that time, especially toward the end, those are clients that to me, I would say probably 95% of those clients are probably gonna be friends of mine for my entire life, because they know what I was going through and they still stuck with me. They gave me the opportunity to work for them and to serve them. And those people, I tell you what, I worked extra hard for those people because they were giving me compassion and they were giving me the grace that I needed at the time. Was I fumbling? Oh yeah, I was totally fumbling. I was winging everything. I was on survival mode, and you could even hear it in my voice right now. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I got through it. And the whole point of that is to lift other people up, other people that are going through the same crap. I can say,
Yeah,
you're
well,
gonna
we
get through this.
forget, we take for granted when life is easy and forget how everybody, we're all in a different place. And remember, we're all in a different place. And there are a lot of
Mhm.
people, a lot more people than we think, especially when we're not going through hard times, that are.
Oh
Don't know
yes,
what it's like, right?
yes. I sit with agents on a daily basis who are struggling for one reason or another. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love what you said too, is when you went through that, it was understanding, you could have, and of course everybody feels at some level, be honest with yourself about your situation, but you invested your energy in taking everything bad you possibly could out of the situation and receive everything good, like even the clients and the grace they gave you and the gratitude for that, and showing up with whatever it was that you had. And again, getting anything bad, just get it out of your way. And what a great
Yeah.
lesson. So when your life is easier, to apply those same things and look at what that's gonna do for you and what it's done for you.
And that was the first time that I ever learned to ask or even accept help in any capacity, whether it was at work or at home or with my kids, anything. That was always an issue for me. So that was kind of like what jarred me to say, okay, you need to ask for help for anything. And it really grew me as a person, as a woman, as an agent, as a mother, as a friend, as a sister, as everything.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Last question. If we forget everything we've talked about today and only remember one thing, what do you hope that it is?
That life is short and most of it doesn't really matter. It's really all about people, not things. It's really about how you treat people. Can you sleep at night? Remember that what you put out there comes back to you, and if not you, to your kids or to their kids. So you really have to be cognizant about how you treat people and how you go through this world and what you reflect and what you put out there. I'm going to go with that.
And if you take that, that's all you need to be a really great agent too.
Yeah.
Thank
That's how you
you.
should live your life.
Roxanna, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf